My heart is pounding.
That's a good thing.
It was pounding. We were calling. I wasn't going to raise my hand, although I knew it's my first workshop, ever. And I knew whenever I came to see you, by the way, Esther, you look beautiful today.
We agree.
I was going to be I was going to be in the chair, but not just on the chair, but the first one on the chair.
See there? So he was a little hard to deny, right? With that desire and that absence of resistance about that, would anything else be logical? Not that there's any competition.
I have two questions, if I may. My first question is, I've struggled with substance abuse ever since I knew about your teachings.
You started because of us?
No.
We try to tell good stories.
I've suffered through relapses through my entire life, and the last few that I had, you spoke with me, and you said, "This is Abraham, but you can call me whatever you want to call me, as that name does not really matter at all. It's where you are." I felt I was in the vortex, doing there. And you did also say that I was in the vortex, but the continuous usage of it would never get me there. It was like that every time.
The most important thing for you to take away from this conversation, let's just soften the word struggle a little bit, even though we know a lot of times it's felt like struggle, but let's just soften that word. And let's soften the word abuse too. And let's just acknowledge that what was really going on is that, now you tell us if we are accurate about this, of course we always are, but that you're looking for some relief, not knowing about the discord in your vibration, not really even knowing about vibration, not understanding meditation, not understanding about the cork floating, not knowing about your inner being, not knowing about the vibrational frequencies of this universe, not knowing that stuff, just living and feeling discomfort because of the way your thoughts had become oriented through your exposure to life. And so when you manage to get yourself stressed out, stretched vibrationally, then something that causes distraction or helps you to defocus does give you some relief. But it's not permanent relief or even good relief, in the sense that it doesn't stick because there was no deliberate focus involved in the changing of the vibrational frequency. We're going to give you a strange example, but you're going to like it. So let's say you are a lifeguard and you're committed to helping people not drown who seem determined to drown.
Like Jerry.
Say again?
Like Jerry.
And so you have hold of somebody who is just not only seeming determined to drown themselves, but to drown you too. So you just knock them out. Just knock them out. And for a while it goes better. In other words, now you can paddle them in. And so that's what a lot of people do with the drugs and alcohol and substances. It's their sort of last ditch way of just stopping the vibrational frequency that is the point of attraction. So when you sleep, your withdrawal of focus slows momentum. And don't use this as an Abraham recommendation to go get high on something, because that is not what this is meant to be. But when you are distracted because of the substance, it does slow the momentum, and it does give you a vibrational ease between this desire that is calling you and your unwillingness to go. For a little bit of time, you might be moving more in the direction of who you really are. For example, when you see someone, that's why they say, "I feel high." They feel less bound to the things that have been bothering them. And so let's just start by not calling it abuse. Let's call it misunderstood attempt at relief that was not long-standing. So then all kinds of other things begin complicating it. We want to give you a picture of how life really works well for you. So contrast sometimes is hard, and it causes you to launch a desire, and your inner being gathers the cooperative components, and this desire gestates in this vibrational reality that we've been calling the vortex. And when you are in a state of clarity or in a state of joy, when you're not beating some drum, not calling yourself bad names, not focused on struggle, and not talking about self-abuse, when you are for some reason liking yourself a little bit, you receive an impulse or an idea. And when that impulse or idea comes, that is you in sync with you. Now, once you get a taste for that, and once you understand how you can accomplish that, what kind of thoughts you think in order to get into the receiving mode, and more important, you're able to personally witness and understand the correlation between how you're feeling and how things start turning out for you, then you're off and running. But if you are just feeling bad and then taking something, it's like putting Novocaine in your hand so that you can't feel the hot stove. It does solve the immediate problem, but there's a problem that comes next. This doesn't hurt at all, but what's that funny smell? And what am I going to do now that my fingers are gone? So you don't want to numb your emotional senses. You want them to be active so that you can guide your thoughts to harmonize with what's in your vortex, so that you can be the realizer of the things that you are asking for. So it does not matter where you've been. It doesn't even matter where you are. What matters is where you're going from where you are. And an understanding of how this all works will give you some reason to focus. It will give you some, what some want to call motivation. We would prefer to call it inspiration. The better you feel, the more good ideas will flow to you, and you will recognize that you got an idea. That's why you're acknowledging that you have reached that place where you've begun to receive answers from your own inner being. And the answers that you're getting in the beginning aren't answers of exactly where to go and what to do and what's happening. Those aren't the kind of answers your inner being wants to give you. The answers that your inner being wants to give you and will give you initially are you're good and you're whole and you're worthy and it's going to be all right and we're with you and hang in there and it's going to get better and be easy about it and don't be so hard on yourself and think thoughts that feel better to you. That's the stream of consciousness that your inner being is offering to you at all times. Now, this really matters. Since you started out with this conversation about being in the receiving mode, and you definitely have been in the receiving mode of us and others, we want you to all understand that you are all in the receiving mode of something all the time. Because there are vibrational rivers and streams of frequencies and consciousness that are around you all the time. But the question that you want to ask yourself is, how do I feel as I am in this receiving mode? Because if you feel like some voice is saying to you to take up arms and go be vigilant and mow down a bunch of people, we promise you, you are not in the receiving mode of your source energy, but you are in some receiving mode. You're in that revenge receiving mode where rivers and streams of those who have felt disenfranchised have flowed thoughts, and every thought that has ever been thought still exists, you see. So you got to understand what your emotional guidance system is telling you, and then do your best to feel as good as you can feel, and then just follow the impulses that come. The most wonderful thing is when you recognize, as you watch the universe delivering nice thing after nice thing after nice thing to you. And we're talking about sweet children in the airport that just give you that look, or a sweet seatmate who just gives you a little piece of information that you were just wondering about, or on it goes. The stream of beneficiary, helpful thoughts and impulses that flow to you. Oh, that's the sweet spot of life. That's what you came for. You came to decide through contrast and to ask because you knew you would. And then to stand as best you can, as often as you can, as long as you can, in the receptive mode of alignment with that broader perspective who is flowing impulses and guidance to you at all times. But you got to decide, and life helps you to do it. You got to decide to stop beating up on yourself, because if you decide that you're not good or that you're not a receiver, or if you decide that you've done something wrong that is keeping you from being able to be the blessed one who can receive, then even though guidance and love is raining down all around you all the time, it's like you've got your umbrella up until you take some substance. Then you put your umbrella down so you feel a little better, but you don't make the conscious correlation. So it's not a progressive thing. You don't make a vibrational difference in yourself. You just allow yourself to be soothed for a minute, and that's not bad, but you don't hold yourself in an improved set point that then positively affects you later. That's why drugs are a good idea if all you want's relief, not such a good idea if you want relief to last longer than this moment. You know, have you ever said it? When you see someone who has been under the influence of something, how they're full of themselves. You say it about your little kids too, who haven't been in the liquor cabinet yet. Mostly. You're full of yourself. Well, that's what happens when you stop holding resistance. You allow more of yourself in. And so that's why sometimes you feel less inhibited. Sometimes you feel less self-conscious. Sometimes you feel more able to cope with the relentless judgment of your fellow human beings. You care less about what they think when you're less able to focus on what they really mean. I love you too, man.
When I was there in the vortex, was that really Abraham speaking through me, the words that, and the feelings and the vibrations that were going through me, or was that because of the use, like imaginary?
You've experienced both, and you know the difference. You've experienced both, and you know the difference. True alignment is more sustaining. We would not look for your connection with your inner being under the influence, because as you are acknowledging here, you can't sort it out.
So the main things you said, like after many years of being clean, that was our strongest communication. You did say you will write a book, one of many, and that is.
Wouldn't that be a book that others would like to read? Aren't there just so many people who would like to know what their desire for the substance is, why it's there, and why there is some benefit, but then mostly not? What you want is clarity. Clarity is the optimum feeling of alignment. And so sometimes people under the influence of some things, Esther has never utilized any drugs, so she doesn't have a good vocabulary about it. But sometimes people under the influence do feel clarity that they have not experienced before. Jerry talks about a friend who, under the influence of something, was so full of himself and just rambled on for hours. He was so sure that he had outlined all of the secrets of the universe. But to those who were listening, not so clear. And so you really want to be able to translate this vibrational frequency of source energy into a physical, tangible equivalent that you can understand. Enough?
Enough.
Really good.
Thank you.
Really good conversation.